The first words I spoke after being reborn were, "Father, I won't marry that man from the Shen family anymore," but in truth, Shen Moxing treated me very well in my past life. We were a harmonious couple who treated each other with respect. There was just one thing: he said that after his death, he wanted to be buried together with his maidservant who had died young. Our Chu is afraid of the dark, and I fear she might be scared. What a coincidence, I'm afraid too, but there's only one Shen Moxing. So in this second life, I won't fight for him anymore. I found someone willing to lie with me in a pitch-black coffin when we grow old. He said he wasn't afraid, and holding me, I wasn't afraid either. We're getting married. But Shen Moxing changed his mind again. Hello, everyone, welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful novels every day. Now the story begins. I was reborn after finishing Shen Moxing's funeral arrangements. Everyone says we are a deeply affectionate couple. And indeed it has been so all these years. He treats me exceedingly well. He has painted my eyebrows for me, and shielded me from arrows. I, in turn, have sewn clothes for him and tasted poison on his behalf. By all appearances, we are a loving and devoted couple. But just before death, looking at my tear-streaked face, what he said was, "Shuyun, bury me with Eichu, his youthful white moonlight who passed away too soon, the one he truly never let go of all these years. On the contrary, the wife everyone says he truly loved, he never considered. If he were to be buried with Eichu, then where should I be buried after my death? But this is no longer for me to consider, because when I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the time before I was married off to Shen Moxing. This time, I went to find my father first. Father, I don't want to marry that Shen family boy anymore. I was originally the legitimate daughter of the Ji family, but my mother passed away early, leaving only my elder brother and me before departing this world. The next year, a stepmother entered our household. In a fit of anger, my elder brother joined the military camp. As for my stepmother, she didn't treat me particularly well, but neither was she unkind. However, after my father had other children, naturally, I became that awkward outsider. The reason I could boldly propose to break off the engagement was entirely because I seized upon the guilt my father had long harbored for neglecting me. It was nothing more than that one day, while holding his little daughter, he caught sight of me leaving indifferently and suddenly remembered how he used to hold me in the same way, calling me Ayun when I was a child. Only then did he realize with a start that it had been so long since I last smiled and called him father. Belated guilt drove him to put great effort into arranging my marriage, meticulously selecting the newly appointed top scholar, Shen Moxing, for me. And now, I say, Daddy, I don't want to marry that Shen family boy anymore. His face still held the joy of my rare initiative to visit him, but it froze at my words, turning desolate. Shuyun, are you still angry at Daddy for neglecting you all these years? But no matter what, you shouldn't take it out on your own lifelong matter, that Shen boy. I personally chose him for you. Why should I be angry? I raised my eyes, interrupting him with a calm tone. Father has taken a new wife and now has new children, so naturally, he would dote on them. It's only reasonable that he occasionally forgets about this daughter of his. I'm not angry. Mother was gone, and my elder brother had joined the military camp. When I cried alone all night, terrified of the thunder in the darkness, and sent someone to fetch father, all I got in return was, "The mistress has just given birth to a young master, and the master is too concerned to leave her side. I'm afraid he won't be coming." After that, I knew I had no father. How strange. I've accepted this truth for many years now. I don't understand why he should be sad. Doesn't he already have his beloved wife and child? I don't understand, so I only voiced my request when I saw a flicker of sorrow in his eyes. I just truly don't wish to marry that young master of the Shen family. Has Shen Moxing treated you poorly? Father countered. Me, no, he's been extremely good to me. It was truly wonderful. After marrying into the Shen family, we treated each other with mutual respect and affection. He was always considerate and attentive, never took a concubine, and even in the turbulent political climate of our previous life, he shielded me from arrows while I tasted poison for him. We shared weal and woe, never abandoning each other. The world says that he and I are bound by fate across lifetimes, so how could he possibly treat me poorly? The only flaw, perhaps, is that he didn't love me, just as he said before his death, when he asked me to bury him with his beloved Eichu. Shuyun, you are truly wonderful, and I have wronged you, but Eichu, she is all alone and would be afraid. That little maid who grew up with him, because of his stepmother's schemes, died young with unfulfilled grievances, becoming the lifelong pain of his heart, so much so that many years later, Shen Moxing, who ascended to the pinnacle of civil officialdom, had only one moment of indulgence, being buried together with a young maidservant. This successfully turned the once envied and illustrious Madame Shen into the greatest joke of all. But what a coincidence, I'm also afraid of the dark, yet there is only one Shen Moxing, so in this second life, I won't fight for him anymore, father anxiously asked. Then why? I replied, I just don't want to anymore, he's kind to everyone. But I, Ji Shuyun, only want someone who's kind to me alone. This sounded like the petulant words of a young girl. My father thought I was just retaliating against him and retorted, what if I don't agree? With the weight of parental authority and matchmaker's words pressing down, how could a mere girl like me resist? But I simply looked at him and affirmed, I still have my brother, as long as I don't want to, no matter where. My brother will take me away. My elder brother, Ji Jingyu, has always been the one who loved me the most, in both past and present lives. He would never forget me just because our mother was gone, nor would he force me to marry someone else under the guise of making amends, just like now. His voice arrives before he does, just as it has countless times when he stood up for me. If my sister doesn't want to marry, not even the King of Heaven can force her, let alone some newly crowned top scholar. As the words fell, I looked up in pleasant surprise. Brother, but he hadn't come alone. Behind him followed two others, one still clad in armor, walking by his side. His face was as fair as jade, with a scholarly air that was unmistakably Shen Moxing. Seeing me, my elder brother, his face tanned from long days in the military, broke into a smile. Shuyun, I came as soon as I got your letter. Isn't it just that you don't want to marry? Then we won't marry. Your brother risked his life on the frontier. If I can't even protect you, I might as well find a block of tofu to crash into and die. The more he spoke, the more outrageous it became. Seeing Shen Moxing, the father immediately scolded sternly, stop talking nonsense. Do you realize this is an agreed upon marriage? How can we just call it off because of a single I don't want to? Moreover, Shuyun is a young woman. If she's rejected, father is right. But what if neither side wants it? There wasn't much respect in his brother's words as he turned to look at the silent Shen Moxing. What do you think, young Master Shen? Hearing this, Shen Moxing raised his eyes. With just one glance, and only that one glance, we both knew, the other had been reborn too. Though they had been the closest of companions in their past life, in this life, one hesitated to move forward while the other breathed a sigh of relief. I went with the flow. Mr. Shen surely has a better match. Now that he has topped the imperial examination, he must look down on someone as shallow as me. Since he's here to break off the engagement, why not seize the day? Mo Xing, are you really? Father was incredulous. Shen Moxing only looked at me, but after saying these words, I lowered my head and focused on the floor. After a long while, his Adam's apple moved slightly. Yes, I didn't know why he hesitated for so long, but fortunately, he agreed. My father was utterly heartbroken, yet not long ago, when negotiating the marriage with the Shen family, they had assured him that their son would love only me, with no concubines or secondary wives in the household. They even promised that after marrying me, he would treasure me like jade, with unwavering devotion. The solemn vows made back then were now overturned by the very person who claimed his heart already belonged to another. When the legal mother arranged this marriage, she did not consult with me, which led to the misunderstanding. To be honest, my lord, I have a maidservant who has accompanied me for many years, and I do not wish to betray her. Shen Moxing spoke word by word. Having been reborn, he arrived just in time to save a Chu from the tragedy that befell her in his previous life. In my past life, had a Chu not died, he would never have married me. Now that a Chu is alive, it is only natural that I should be the one to be abandoned. I knew this would be the outcome, yet upon hearing his answer, I couldn't help but laugh at myself mockingly. Everyone says Shen Moxing is deeply devoted to love and righteousness, but who will speak up for my injustice? He said he was buried with Chu because his Chu was afraid, but has he ever considered how much of a joke the surviving widow, would become when he uttered those words? At first, I thought my son would speak for me, but the son meticulously raised by Shen Moxing, his father, merely frowned at me. Father treated mother well his entire life, and this was his only regret. Why must mother be so jealous? What harm would it do to grant father this one wish? He went all out in arranging the joint burial of Shen Moxing and a Chu, making me the laughingstock of all Jinling. That same day, my already elderly brother came with a whip and gave him a thrashing. With a grand gesture, he took me back to the mansion. He, Shen Moxing, is a heartless scoundrel, and has raised a coward just like himself. Don't think my sister has no one to stand up for her. Must we cling to your Shen family? Nonsense. My general's mansion is wealthy and powerful. Can't we afford to support one sister? Similarly, in this life, upon hearing Shen Moxing's words, my elder brother couldn't resist rushing forward to beat him up. You damned bastard, my sister is the best in the world, who the hell do you think you are, can't even decide your own marriage, where were you earlier, your stepmother could hide it for a while, but not for half a month, now it's done, the engagement is set, and only then do you come to break it off, humiliating her like this, see how I'll beat you up, I just wanted to break off the engagement, not cause a death. Seeing this, I hurried forward to stop him, but my brother, being a rough man, nearly knocked me out with an elbow. It didn't happen because someone caught me from behind and let out a light laugh. Alright, Jingyu, if you kill him, your sister won't be able to break off the engagement, she'll just become a widow. I instinctively looked over, but the hand that had steadied me was already withdrawn, leaving only half a smiling profile in view. Sensing my gaze, Zaid winked at me playfully. I quickly averted my eyes, my heartbeat skipping a beat. I thought to myself, where did this person come from, so bold and unrestrained? In the end, Shen Moxing still didn't get beaten to death. The injuries weren't severe, but not light either, but I no longer cared. As I eagerly retrieved the marriage certificate and was about to leave, I heard Shen Moxing say, are you truly so unwilling to spend another moment with me? Shuyun, I know it's you. I paused, then turned back. Master Shen, why say such things? Since you've been granted a second life, shouldn't you be devoting yourself to your beloved Miss Chu? Why concern yourself with anything else? Since that's the case, I'll grant your wish, and you grant mine. From now on, we'll be strangers, given the propriety between men and women. How much longer does young Master Shen expect me to stay? If this matter were to spread, you, who already have a beloved to marry, would naturally be unaffected, but I, unmarried. How should I face society then? That's not what I meant. Shen Moxing's tone quickened slightly, a flash of guilt in his eyes. I don't actually dislike you either. In our previous life, at first, I only felt responsible for you, but after years together, I was startled and immediately interrupted before he could finish. Are you saying this because you didn't manage to save that girl, Eichu? He opened his mouth. Eichu is mostly recovered now, what's the point of talking then? Could it be that he wants both, enjoying the blessing of having two wives? I gathered my thoughts and seriously said my final words to him. Mr. Shen, the past is gone. In our previous life, though your heart belonged to someone else, you treated me well except for humiliating me during our joint burial. In this life, you've been beaten by my brother, so let's call it even, let's both move on. He paused for a long while. Okay, softly, goodbye, never to meet again. I pushed open the door, thinking to myself, Jinling was so small that in my past life, Shen Moxing and I somehow managed to meet, entangling and trapping each other for a lifetime. Yet Jinling was also so vast that when fate ran its course and affection faded, no matter how hard we tried, we could never meet again. Clutching the marriage certificate, I rushed to find my brother, only to collide headlong into someone. The marriage certificate fluttered to the ground, trampled beneath his feet, he even ground it underfoot, yet the instigator acted as if nothing had happened, steadying me with a laugh in his voice. This is the second time, Miss G. If it happens again, I might start getting the wrong idea. I snapped back to reality and abruptly withdrew my hand, eyeing him warily. I didn't mean to. No matter how you looked at him, he didn't seem like a good person. He pretended to be magnanimous. I forgive you. I puffed out my cheeks. May I know Miss G's name? Shuyun, Ji Shuyun. I was thinking about leaving. Ling Feng. What? He narrowed his eyes and smiled. Ling Feng, Jiu Ling Feng. He spoke word by word, as if each syllable was meant to be branded onto my heart. Yet this name was anything but unfamiliar to me, whether in past lives or the present. The reputation of the fourth prince, Jiu Ling Feng, had always been exceptionally prominent. The current empress has no children of her own, apart from the second prince, who is a favorite raised by her side. The most outstanding figure is the fourth prince, a brave and skilled warrior whose birth mother passed away early. My elder brother formed a close friendship with the fourth prince when he ventured into the military camp, however, in the previous life. This prince had not yet risen to prominence before he was captured in a major battle and died for his country. Because of this, my elder brother grieved for a long time. He once mentioned to me unintentionally, back then, your brother here didn't know how to say pretty words, to keep you from feeling sad. Every time you wrote, it was him who replied for me. Only then did I suddenly remember, after father married his second wife, I had come to regard my elder brother as my only family. So much so that every time I wrote a letter home, I couldn't help but pour out every new thing I encountered. At first, I was afraid my elder brother would find me bothersome. But he didn't. His replies were just as lengthy, filled with everything from amusing anecdotes in the army to the war horses he'd tamed and the crickets he'd caught. Except for not mentioning much about his own situation, he wrote with great care, but in the last letter, the tone changed drastically. The handwriting was messy and rough, clearly stating, "Dear little sister, wait for your brother to return, I'll introduce you to someone." But in the end, I never got to see him, because what my elder brother brought back was the remains of the fourth prince, Jiyu Lingfeng, who had died for his country. The following year, I married Shen Moxing. "What? Do you recognize me?" Jiyu Lingfeng lowered his head, looking at my stunned expression with a faint, enigmatic smile. I suddenly snapped out of my reverie and shook my head at his words, replying respectfully, "I pay my respects to the Fourth Highness." His gaze darkened slightly, as if somewhat angered, and his tone grew cooler. "There's no need for such formality with me. Isn't it always the case that there's a distinction between ruler and subject?" Confusion flickered in my eyes. He had already placed something on the table and walked past me. I instinctively asked, "Your Highness, what is this?" "Crickets. In the letters we exchanged, there was once a promise written that upon returning, he would bring me the most combative crickets." I was taken aback for a moment. When my elder brother walked in, I was still staring blankly at those two crickets. He said that Shen Moxing had been driven away by him, and his sister was far from being unwanted. There were plenty of outstanding young talents waiting to be chosen. Even if I never marry, he could support me for the rest of my life. As for my father, my elder brother merely sneered. Hypocrisy. If he truly cared about mother and us, how could he have remarried, and had several more children? At the end of his words, he suddenly ventured to ask, "Shuyun, what do you think of the fourth prince?" My heart inexplicably skipped a beat as I looked up. "Why do you ask?" My brother is the worst at lying in front of me, scratching his head in a way that practically screams guilty as charged. "Just asking." It was my brother who wanted to ask me. My brother said that Jiyu Lingfeng wasn't supposed to return so soon originally, but I suddenly wrote a letter to my elder brother, asking him to help me annul the engagement. Clearly, my elder brother is my own flesh and blood, yet Jiyu Lingfeng was even more enthusiastic than him, and followed along as well. Just like this, he arrived right at this moment. I thought for a moment, looking at the two exceptionally well-kept crickets in the box, and replied, "The fourth prince is an extremely good person." Little did I expect that my polite remark would be taken seriously, but my elder brother was delighted. "These days, from time to time, I've been given quite a bit of silver. One day, I'm told to buy more rouge at the cosmetics shop. The next, it's said that the newly arrived opera troupe at Tianxiang Tower is quite good, and I should go see them, under the guise of warding off bad luck, of course." I might have believed it if I hadn't run into Jiyu Lingfeng every single time. He's certainly more straightforward than my elder brother. Whenever he sees me, he can still smile and say, "What a coincidence. Miss G, call it coincidence." But the hairpin I glanced at would soon be brought before me, and my favorite opera scripts would always, as if by chance, come my way. After too many coincidences, I couldn't help but ask, "This subject has just broken off an engagement. If the Fourth Highness repeatedly crosses paths with me, aren't you afraid of idle gossip?" Truth be told, from the moment I ended the engagement with Shen Moxing, I knew there would be no shortage of whispers in the days to come, but compared to the prospect of being with Shen Moxing forever, it was clearly insignificant. Yet Jiyu Lingfeng didn't show the slightest hesitation. Upon hearing this, I suddenly realized, there's such a good thing, me. The words were spoken so plainly that it would be unreasonable if I still pretended not to understand. I advised him, "Your Highness, this humble woman's virtue is but a pretense. In truth, I am not a magnanimous person." He replied, "Do not impose on others what you yourself do not desire. It's only right not to be magnanimous, but this humble woman has many rules besides." What a coincidence. I most enjoy being restrained by others. I could only say, "Your Highness, perhaps I am not a suitable match." He also said, "Whether you are or not, one can only know by trying." I choked, staring at him in astonishment. He curled the corner of his lips. "Yun, raising crickets has been quite a hardship for me. Rushing all the way here while still having to care for such fragile creatures. If I said I didn't care, it would be a lie." He didn't press me further. After speaking, he left to arrange for my favorite opera performance. From behind, a voice called out, "Shuyun." I turned at the sound and saw Shen Moxing, whom I hadn't seen in a long time, standing not far away with a woman. He must have accompanied her to watch the play. If I'm not mistaken, that must be Eichu. She is indeed a beauty, though somewhat slender. with a delicate charm reminiscent of the legendary Shishur, at this moment. Her beautiful eyes regarded me with a mix of curiosity and wariness as she asked, "Young master, who is this?" Shen Moxing almost instinctively replied, "She is Shuyun, she's, what is it, his lawful wife, but he has been reborn, and in this life, they have already called off their engagement," and I indifferently said, "Mr. Shen, you and I have already called off our engagement. Please address me as Miss G." Shen Moxing paused, a hint of desolation in his eyes. One might think I was a heartless scoundrel, fortunately, that Miss Chu came to the rescue. "Young master, I feel a bit cold." Shen Moxing immediately rushed off to ask the innkeeper for hot tea, forgetting everything else. Once he was gone, she finally withdrew her gaze. "Miss G, you must be the young lady from the G family, right?" I remained silent. She gave a soft, disdainful snort. "Actually, the young master is fond of you, even though he never says it, having been by his side for years. I can tell at a glance, ever since breaking off the engagement with you, he's been absent-minded." Her words were filled with intimacy. I was puzzled. "What are you trying to say?" Achu's eyes flashed with unwillingness, but she still said, "Don't worry, I'm not as jealous as you. I only want the young master to be well and happy, so, if you promise to help him with connections after marrying into the Shen family and have your G family offer some support as well, I'm willing to give you the position. I'll be the concubine." Her eyes were full of pride. "You simply wouldn't understand the difficulties the young master faces, nor the bond between us. Between us, we wouldn't nitpick over something as trivial as a mere title." I must say, I was indeed quite surprised, as this was the first time I'd encountered someone so magnanimous, as if she would do anything for Shen Moxing. Indeed, in her past life, didn't she die with bitter regret for Shen Moxing? But, "Miss, not everyone in this world is blind and deaf. What makes you think that your so-called gentleman is such a hot commodity? Who's to say he isn't just one of many options for me to choose from?" I curled my lips, but there was no trace of a smile. "You," her eyes widened, "how could you say such a thing about the young master?" "What else should I say then? Isn't this the truth?" She considered her young master to be absolutely unparalleled, but Jinling City was never short of noble descendants. A newly minted top scholar, whose official career had just begun, what did that amount to? Perhaps the commotion was a bit too loud, for Shen Moxing happened to walk in with a cup of hot tea. "Archu, what's the matter?" The girl named Archu reddened her eyes and looked at him with grievance. "Young master, she can say whatever she wants about Achu, but she must not speak ill of you. Others may not know, but Achu does. These years you've kept your brilliance hidden, nurturing great ambitions. You're the finest person under heaven. How dare she say such things?" Her words were righteous and stern. Shen Moxing's gaze toward me shifted slightly, carrying a hint of reproach. "Shuyun, Miss G, Achu is frail, not as noble as you are, but you shouldn't make things difficult for her. The decision to break off the engagement was mine. If you're angry, direct it at me. After all, it's me who wronged you." I laughed in anger. After all this time, Shen Moxing actually still thought I couldn't forget him and turned love into hatred. I turned my gaze toward the approaching figure in the distance and suddenly raised my voice. "Jiyu Lingfeng." The latter looked up. Even Shen Moxing and Achu turned their heads to look as well, but Jiyu Lingfeng turned a blind eye. He walked towards me, standing close by my side with a familiar tone. "Did Shuyun call for me?" Only then did he glance at the other two, his gaze darkening momentarily before asking with a smile, "And who might these two be?" "Shuyun." Shen Moxing looked at me and then at Jiyu Lingfeng, astonished. "Fourth prince, you too?" He couldn't possibly not recognize Jiyu Lingfeng. He just didn't expect Jiyu Lingfeng to be standing with me. Achu didn't understand Shen Moxing's meaning and was still muttering to himself, "What kind of noble lady is this fourth princess? She's nothing special after all, unmarried yet walking with a man. Utterly shameless, truly unworthy of our young master." She spoke recklessly, completely unaware of what she was saying, and failed to notice how her young master's face had paled upon hearing these words. In a panic, he hurriedly said, "Archu, shut your mouth." But it was too late. Quickly add pushpin WeChat. See *U**re1*11 to stay connected. I glanced sideways and lowered my gaze. The maid who had been silently standing by my side like a background character stepped forward without hesitation and slapped her. The slap resounded crisply, truly worthy of the person my elder brother specially selected for me. The maid's voice was icy. "Fourth prince is a guest of our master and a close friend of the young master. Today's encounter was merely coincidental, conducted openly and properly in public, without the slightest impropriety, not to mention the fact that you, young lady, are slandering others' reputations without evidence, but even considering the distinction between ruler and subject, it is not your place as a maid to offend a prince. Chu let out a startled cry, her delicate face swollen and red, yet her young master could only helplessly try to support her. Joke. You only remember to slap Chu, but forgot to slap her. I looked up. The maid's palm immediately changed direction and landed on Shenmoxing's face. Failing to teach properly is an even greater offense, young Master Shen. Don't tell me that standing in high positions for too long has made you forget the distinction between noble and humble. These words were spoken by me. The reborn Shenmoxing still thought he was the chief civil official of his previous life. But it seems he has forgotten that everything has started anew, now. He is merely a scholar who has just passed the imperial examination and hasn't even been assigned an official position yet. Seeing Shenmoxing being struck, Chu, who had been crying in pain just moments ago, immediately rushed to support her young master, her heart aching as she looked at the palm print on his face. A pair of dexterous eyes glared at me angrily. How dare you strike the newly crowned top scholar? She pointed at the maidservant. She's just a lowly servant, a servant. Indeed, just a servant. The maid's tone was flat. No need for the young lady to remind me. This servant knows her place. However, this servant once served as a court official in the palace. Half a month ago, General G personally requested His Majesty's permission to have me look after the young lady. Though I may be shallow, I believe I am not so incompetent as to be unable to deal with a criminal who dares to offend her superiors in the palace. Those who could rise to the rank of court official either came from powerful aristocratic families or were exceptionally capable, regardless of which, neither was someone Shenmoxing could afford to openly offend at this moment. Chu, stop talking. Shenmoxing, at least somewhat sober, stopped Chu's reckless words. When he steadied himself, his left cheek was visibly swollen and red, yet he just kept looking at me. My gaze was cold, unmoving. If this were in my past life, even if he suffered just a minor injury, I would be rushing to find a doctor and fetch medicine for him. Back then, he would always smile helplessly and say, "It's just a small wound, no need to make a fuss, but your carefulness is just like Chu's." He trailed off halfway, his eyes dimming, but I was too busy applying medicine to him to catch his words clearly. What Chu? He fell silent, shaking his head despondently, and now, he had gotten his wish. His beloved Chu was heartbroken for him. Yet he stared at me, as if waiting for a reaction. He was disappointed. I, Ji Shuyun, have always been selfish, only kind to my own people. What kind of thing is a cancelled engagement outsider? That wave of loneliness swept over me, but this time it wasn't for Chu. A hint of self-mockery flashed in Shenmoxing's eyes as he raised his hand in salute. This servant spoke out of turn earlier, offending the fourth prince and Miss Ji. It was entirely my fault, and I beg the fourth prince's forgiveness. Yes, the fourth prince. Up to now, Jiyu Lingfeng hadn't uttered a single word, merely watching quietly, permitting the maid to strike, and permitting her to deliver the reprimand. Shenmoxing wasn't afraid of me, but he feared Jiyu Lingfeng. If Jiyu Lingfeng had just gotten angry and shouted, it would have been fine. But his silence was what truly terrified people. A drop of cold sweat trickled down his forehead. Downstairs, the opera troupe began singing, their voices clear and bright. A mocking laugh came from above, startling Shenmoxing into looking up, yet the person opposite merely lowered their head to ask me, "This play is your favorite? They've changed the lead performer. Do you still like it?" I pondered carefully before replying, "Not bad." He naturally poured me a cup of tea, his narrow eyes slightly narrowing at the words as he curled his lips to comment, "Out with the old, in with the new." Then he turned his head to glance at Shenmoxing. "Don't you agree?" Young Master Shen, even when seated calmly, those who have long weathered the battlefield carry an air of bloodshed and solemnity in their gaze. As these words were spoken, the atmosphere grew inexplicably tense. Shenmoxing locked eyes with him steadily, only to see me sitting by another's side. My closeness appearing even more natural than it had been with him in our past life. He didn't want to admit it. Clearly, I should have been his wife. No, I was originally meant to be. How did he become the past? But, young master, the sound of Chu's sobbing behind him pulled him back to reality. Still as protective of him as ever. Let's not beg them anymore. They're just bullying us. In the past, he would have found this incredibly heartwarming. But now, he could only think how foolish it was. With the prince present, such rudeness and public backtalk would be tantamount to courting death in official circles. If it were Shuyun, she wouldn't be so shallow-minded and ill-mannered. Shuyun, he swallowed the bitterness and forced out the words through clenched teeth. "Your Highness speaks most wisely." As soon as the words fell, Yu Lingfeng stole a glance at me, but unfortunately, he couldn't discern anything. I simply raised an eyebrow. It seems young Master Shen is quite sensible, but the servants around him are utterly undisciplined. If the servants are unruly, it's the master's fault for indulging them, in that case. Young Master Shen shall take 20 strokes of the cane on her behalf. Chu, who had been seething with indignation moments ago, froze upon hearing this and collapsed to the ground. The next instant, as if snapping back to reality, she disregarded everything else and urgently pleaded, "It's my fault, all my fault. Don't punish the young master, Your Highness, punish me instead." Yu Lingfeng heard such a request for the first time and waved his hand dismissively. "What's the hurry? You shouldn't be idle either, since you're so talkative. Go to the laundry bureau for 3 months, keep your hands busy, and your mouth will naturally stop." "Your Highness, you mustn't." Shen Moxing remained silent when punished with caning, but grew anxious upon hearing Chu was to be sent to the laundry bureau. Chu is frail, the laundry bureau is harsh, how could she endure it? Moreover, Chu merely misspoke and offended Miss Ji slightly. How could this warrant, and why shouldn't it? Yu Lingfeng's voice turned sharp, his brows furrowed with visible anger. As fellow women, she well knows how crucial a woman's reputation is, yet she opens her mouth only to slander. Who knows if she merely went to wash a few clothes, while Shuyun has suffered endless gossip because of the two of you. Shen Moxing, you said nothing when you were engaged, only breaking off the engagement half a month later. In all these days, were you deaf, that you never heard those slanderous words? If so, why did you let your maid add fuel to the fire? The Ji family is powerful, and Shuyun has always been open-minded. She wouldn't mind. Shen Moxing's eyes flickered with panic. For the first time, he lacked confidence. It was just a broken engagement. At most, a few words would be said. The Ji family wouldn't let me suffer, and in my past life, I was so magnanimous and understanding that I certainly wouldn't be troubled by such gossip. He thought this way. Forgetting that he was a man, a few words couldn't trap him, but they could easily brand a woman for life. Even at the time of my natural death in my previous life, jokes about me were still circulating in the outside world. What kind of virtuous and gentle wife of a prime minister was I? Surely, I must have lacked feminine virtue, speaking of benevolence while harboring malice. Otherwise, why would my own husband be buried alongside another woman? Instead, I was sent back to my parents' home. For any woman, this would be an unbearable humiliation. And now, upon hearing Shen Moxing's words, I finally rose from the theatrical singing. Shen Moxing watched my approaching figure. Shuyun, slap. A slap rang out crisply, his face jerked to the side. Expression blank, my icy voice echoed in my ears. You deserve to die. A heart that had endured 2 lifetimes thought it could no longer be stirred, yet now it ached utterly. The person before me turned and left without a trace of hesitation. Yu Lingfeng immediately dropped everything to chase after the person, not forgetting to add 10 more strikes for this prince. How strange, my strength was no match for the palace maids, yet when they struck Shen Moxing, he felt nothing but pain. But when it was me, he suffered from bouts of tinnitus. Chu's heart-wrenching and worried cries still lingered. In a daze, he mustered his last shred of clarity to call out to Yu Lingfeng, "Fourth Highness." Yu Lingfeng completely ignored him. He raised his voice. "Second Highness asked Shen to inquire about your well-being." Yu Lingfeng's figure paused, then he turned back, glaring at him with a dark expression. The emperor was aging, and although the second prince was born of a concubine, he was raised by the empress. By all rights, he should have been the crown prince, if only Yu Lingfeng's achievements hadn't been so dazzling. Thus, in the struggle for the throne, neither brother would yield to the other. It was precisely because I had written that family letter to my elder brother, mentioning that no matter what, if any city requested reinforcements, he must not let Yu Lingfeng lead the troops there. It would be better to first circle around to the rear, investigate the situation, and then take action. For no other reason, in the previous life, the second prince was able to successfully seize the throne because the city that came seeking reinforcements was actually a carefully laid trap he had set for Yu Lingfeng, using the entire city's population as bait. As long as Yu Lingfeng couldn't bear to abandon them and stubbornly defended the city gates, he too would perish. Unfortunately, I only realized all of this after being reborn. Fortunately, in this life, with my warning, both my elder brother and Yu Lingfeng became cautious, sensing something amiss. They naturally didn't go, he didn't go but instead returned to Jinling, so the second prince's scheme naturally came to nothing, and the city's populace was never trapped. Yu Lingfeng later realized what had happened, But he didn't confront the second prince to avoid alerting the enemy. After returning to Jinling, he also avoided direct conflict with him. Now, Shen Moxing's words were tantamount to telling Jiyu Lingfeng that he had already sided with the second prince. Punishing him would mean openly breaking with the second prince. He was also annoyed, as he shouldn't have revealed his choice so early in principle, but his beloved Eichu was in danger, leaving him no choice. Jiyu Lingfeng smiled menacingly, staring at Shen Moxing. Are you threatening me? Shen Moxing forced himself to stand his ground. I didn't mean it that way. But Eichu is frail. He wanted to say more. The teacup on the table shattered across the floor, and the long sword at the prince's waist halted at his throat, its sharp blade drawing a thin line of blood. Chu was so frightened that she didn't dare to move. Shen Moxing's back was already drenched in sweat. Shen Moxing, your Chu may be delicate and tender, afraid of bumps and bruises, but Shuyun isn't without someone who cares for her either. I've guarded her all these years. Only for you to nearly steal her away. Fine, I can let that slide, but you even made her suffer endlessly. Do you really think cozying up to Jiyu Lingcheng gives you the right to challenge me? Your Highness. Shen Moxing's voice was hoarse. In the next instant, a flash of sword light, the lintel beside them came crashing down. The battle-hardened prince declared with resounding authority, newly appointed top scholar Shen Moxing, for his unruly behavior, insubordination, and lack of discipline, is sentenced to 20 lashes, plus an additional 10 strokes of the cane. As for you, Eichu, since the laundry bureau is where you're headed, you'll be going there too, he sneered with a chilling tone. And as for Jiyu Lingcheng, the long sword was slammed to the ground with a piercing clang that hurt the eardrums. What kind of thing does he think he is? Everyone said that at Tianxiang Tower that day, the newly crowned top scholar had provoked the fourth prince into a towering rage. Being caned was bad enough, but he was also punished by being sent to the laundry bureau. It could be called humiliation. In the end, it was the second prince, who arrived upon hearing the news, that managed to pull him out, in an instant. The previously harmonious demeanor between the two princes was completely shattered, turning them into sworn enemies. Yet, despite the emperor's all-seeing and all-knowing power, he seemed completely unaware of the situation and never made any statement. Instead, during the court session, he exceptionally promoted the top scholar Shen Moxing to serve by the side of the second prince. He then asked the fourth prince, who had returned triumphantly, if there was anything he desired. The fourth prince did not hesitate and promptly knelt down. Father, your son has joyous news. I beg for your blessing to arrange a marriage. Lady Ji Jiashu, graceful in appearance and wise at heart, serene and virtuous, was the fourth prince's consort whom he personally petitioned the emperor to marry. That day, the court fell into stunned silence. Everyone was caught off guard. No one had expected the fourth prince to make such a request. The reason was simple, others might not have known, but the second prince's faction understood all too well. Minister Ji Qinlian had always been aligned with the second prince. That eldest daughter of the Ji family was the very woman whom the second prince's faction member and newly appointed top scholar Shen Moxing had previously broken off an engagement with. Yet the emperor showed no change in expression and laughed heartily. Rare indeed for you to plead before us. We have heard of that eldest daughter of the Ji family, a woman of quiet virtue. Since this is the case, we grant your request. As these words fell, Minister Ji's countenance changed dramatically. While the new top scholar lost all composure, when my father returned home, his face was terrifyingly gloomy. My stepmother treated me coldly, with veiled reproach, but because of the palace made by my side, she couldn't speak too plainly. Not that I want to say this, but Shuyun, you're really too willful. As a woman, marriage has always been a matter of parental orders and matchmakers' words. Who would have thought you'd act without discussing it with your father at all? And with the fourth prince, she was furious. Do you realize what a disaster you've caused by acting so recklessly? How will your father explain this to the second prince? You may be impulsive, but what about your younger siblings? What about my Wana and Chia? If you ask me, that newly appointed top scholar was perfectly fine. It's just that you were too proud and insisted on breaking off the engagement. I forced a smile that didn't reach my eyes. My stepmother and I had always kept our distance. She never treated me too harshly, though she did often shortchange me on allowances and let her own children pick the best silks and jewelry first. But that was the extent of it. But this doesn't mean she can really discipline me in place of my mother. What kind of talk is this? Madam, you never cared for me before, and now? No matter how wrong I may be, it's not your place to discipline me. Besides, when have I ever failed to consult someone? Who did you consult? My father finally exploded. That pitiful sense of guilt vanished completely once my own interests were at stake. You rebellious wretch, who taught you to act like this? I was too lenient with you before. I should have disciplined you properly. He was so furious he wanted to resort to the family punishment. I sneered. My mother passed away long ago. And my father remarried. He hasn't cared about me in years. Indeed, no one has taught me. My father was furious. You're taking revenge on your own father over such a trivial matter. He was truly overthinking it. Ever since he married his second wife, I had long ceased to care about him, let alone stoop to using my own marriage as a means of revenge. He was about to take action when another urgent voice interrupted. Who dares lay a finger on my sister? My expression shifted. Finally breaking into a smile, Big Brother. He arrived in haste, still clad in armor, yet he stepped directly in front of me, his tone resolute. Eldest brothers are like fathers. My sister consulted me about this marriage. The fourth prince is a man worthy of trust, and since they are mutually devoted, I naturally agree. I wonder what guidance father has to offer. Time had flown. The once tender youth who had entered the military camp alone to protect his sister after losing their mother had long grown tall and strong, now standing fearlessly before his father to shield his sister from the storm. Even my father was wary of him. The female official beside me warned, Lord G. The eldest young lady is now the imperial consort personally appointed by His Majesty. If you take action, it might not be appropriate. My father, he has aged. Long gone is the boldness of his youth. He was quite neglectful of his first two children, but the remaining ones all received his affection, even the family estate he had planned. Jingyu has established his own career, so the family property should be left to his younger brother, paving the way for him. If Shuyun marries the newly crowned top scholar, and if Shenmoxing's official career flourishes in the future, she, as his wife, can also help find good husbands for her younger sisters. He had it all planned out. His son and daughter would pave the path to prosperity, and by aligning himself with the second prince, his future children would have smooth sailing. Yet, as fate would have it, neither of these two children would obey. Yet I couldn't take action myself, only feeling resentful. Ji Shuyun. Ji Jingyu, you are defying your father. This is the height of filial impiety. Ha, what a sharp observation. Who made us siblings born with rebellious bones? Leaving the front hall and returning to the courtyard, my elder brother finally asked me, Little sister, are you truly willing to marry the fourth prince? He had asked me this same question the day before Jiyu Lingfeng requested the emperor's permission for our marriage. He always feared I agreed to the marriage solely because of him. It's strange, he clearly knows Jiyu Lingfeng isn't the type to take by force, but when it comes to me, he trusts no one. Brother and the fourth prince were originally close friends. Your refusal wouldn't affect their bond, so there's no need to worry. I shook my head with a smile. Brother, I'm willing. There's a part of it because of you. But more than that, it's because I'm willing. Jiyu Lingfeng's affection was not hidden. On the contrary, it was straightforward and unabashed. I had also thought that if I didn't marry him, I could have married another good man. Perhaps it's even less troublesome in comparison. But as I looked at the well-cared-for cricket and all those things that were handed to me with just a glance, not to mention the news of him punishing Shenmoxing and breaking ties with the second prince for my sake, in the end, I could only sigh. At that time, he had just rushed back and pretended to be magnanimous to comfort me. That Shenmoxing is no good. I've punished him already. You mustn't soften your heart. There are plenty of good men in the world. Who knows, the right one might be right before your eyes. I didn't mean anything else. What I meant was, his implied meaning was impossible to hide. I spoke up. Jiyu Lingfeng. He immediately looked up. I said to him, let's get married. These words left the fourth prince, who had never shown fear even amidst thousands of troops, utterly flustered. He was stunned for a long moment. Are you getting married? Yes. With whom? You. Who am I? I laughed. Jiyu Lingfeng. He finally moved. You're going to marry Jiyu Lingfeng, I said earnestly. If you don't wish to marry me, I can always marry someone else. Who said I don't wish to? He suddenly stood up and began pacing back and forth. Marriage? Yes, we must marry. In a few days. No, better tomorrow. The sooner the better. I'll go make the preparations right away. Wait for me. Just wait for me. As if afraid I might change my mind. He kept glancing back at me while walking away to see if I'd run off. It made me laugh out loud. Your Highness, have you forgotten something? He looked at me blankly. What? My father is wholeheartedly devoted to the second prince, and your Highness is at odds with him. If your Highness were to propose marriage, I fear my father would not consent. His disapproval means nothing. It would only trouble me if you refused. Jiyu Lingfeng waved his hand dismissively. The emperor delights in watching us brothers feud. If he learns I intend to marry someone from the second prince's faction, he'll surely agree just to fan the flames. Shuyun, wait for me. Tomorrow I'll get you the imperial decree for our marriage." He walked swiftly, his words brimming with joy, so overjoyed that he nearly collided head-on with his elder brother who was approaching. At the sight of him, Jiyu Lingfeng gave him a solid hug, laughing heartily under his brother's horrified gaze. "Jingyu, I'm getting married, elder brother, getting married, that's wonderful. Who's the lucky girl?" As he spoke, he caught sight of me standing by the door, smiling at the scene, then glanced at Jiyu Lingfeng, who was so overjoyed he'd lost his composure. "Wait a minute, you're not planning to marry my sister, are you?" The elder brother, coming to his senses, began to playfully wrestle with him. He didn't object, after all. This match was something he had intentionally arranged. Who could blame him for not taking a liking to that bookish, weak-looking Shen Moxing? He hadn't thought much of him in his past life either, even saying, if my brother were still here, he'd be 1,000, no, 10,000 times better than him. Then I remembered that Jiyu Lingfeng had already died for his country, and my mood darkened again. In the end, he carried me onto the bridal sedan chair, murmuring all the way, "This Shen Moxing doesn't seem reliable to me at all, but since you've agreed, fine. If you're unhappy, just come back home." I laughed and said that a woman staying at her parents' home for no reason would surely invite gossip. Even if he didn't mind, father and stepmother wouldn't allow it, but he said righteously, "If he doesn't agree, I'll just start my own household." As if genuinely afraid I'd hesitate, he spoke earnestly, word by word, "Little sister, your brother has already lost our mother, I can't lose you too, so if you marry and suffer any mistreatment, if you're unhappy, you must tell me, even if I have to tear the sky apart, I'll bring you home." He did it. In his previous life, he caused a scene at the funeral where Shen Moxing and a Chu were buried together, and even beat up my ungrateful son. That very day, he brought me back to the general's residence. No matter what people said afterward, he acted as if he didn't hear it. All expenses were only high, never low. I spent an extremely pleasant old age. My sister-in-law was a forthright woman who, during casual conversation, scolded Shen Moxing and my son, then added that after all, it was just one son. She had plenty of sons who would all dutifully care for me in the future. Our bond was so strong that when I passed away peacefully, both my elder brother and sister-in-law shed many tears, yet I smiled and said, "If there is a next life, I will still be your sister." Heaven took pity, and the words came true. The moment I opened my eyes, I was back in my maiden days. Another grand wedding. My elder brother still carried me on his back. I once thought that in my past life, he said those words because he looked down on Shen Moxing. But in this life, I married his best friend, and he still said, "If you ever feel wronged or unhappy after marrying, you must tell your brother. Even if I have to tear the sky apart, I will bring you home." Only then did I realize that as long as he didn't see me living a carefree life, no matter who I married, even the emperor himself, he would never trust it. My heart ached with a bittersweet warmth, and holding back my moved tears, I smiled and said, "Okay, I'll listen to whatever my brother says." The wedding was grand beyond measure, with Jiyu Lingfeng sparing no expense to make it as lavish as possible. He seemed determined to ensure everyone knew it was Ji Yunshu he was marrying. The faction of the second prince wore inscrutable expressions, while my father's face was stiff with tension, but he still chose to stand on the opposite side from me and my elder brother. When making this decision, he said, "Your younger siblings are still young, and as their father, I must consider their future. But in the end, you are all my children. If one day you two face hardship, I will plead with the second prince to show mercy." That was a clear bet on the second prince's ascension to the throne. Even Shen Moxing thought I was being stubborn. "You've been reborn into this life, clearly knowing the second prince will ascend the throne. Why are you still so foolish, Shuyun? Even if you hate me, you shouldn't throw yourself away and let your lifelong matter be settled so carelessly." I found it laughable, not to mention that you and I are already unrelated, even if I truly regretted it now. With the imperial decree already issued and the wedding date set, what's the use of saying all this to me? But I didn't expect him to speak up immediately. "It's useful." I was stunned, yet a look of joy appeared on his face. Chu said that as long as I'm happy, she's willing to be a concubine. "Shuyun, in this life and the next, I can marry you as my rightful wife. In our past life, we lived well together, never abandoning each other. This life should be no different. I did not fail Chu, and I will not fail you either. As long as you are willing, I have a way." His words were abruptly cut off because, before he could finish, I had someone drive him out with a big stick. from the high seat of honor, I sat firmly in the main position and let out a cold laugh. Where did this lunatic come from, spreading wild rumors to deceive the people, trespassing into a private residence, barging into the women's quarters? Spare his life but beat him mercilessly. Those who let him in shall be punished as well. That being said, there's no need to guess who really let him in. A bribed servant was merely a scapegoat. The one truly unwilling to let go was my stubborn father, wasn't it? Otherwise, why would his face turn so green when I threw the man right in front of him? This incident stirred up quite a stir. Rumors spread that the newly crowned top scholar had a moral failing. He had trespassed into a lady's chamber and was beaten out with a stick, leaving him bedridden. If it weren't for my father explaining that I didn't know we had guests at home and thus panicked and accidentally hit someone, who knows how the rumors would have spread. Anyway, his beloved Hu was furious. She cried and raged at me. It's all your fault. Now the young master is bedridden, and the doctor says he's suffered internal injuries. Who knows if there'll be lasting effects? You vicious woman, you're utterly unworthy of the young master's affection. Do you have any idea that just because the young master broke off the engagement with you, the mistress of the Shun family seized his mistake and poisoned the master's mind against him, causing even the master to be deeply disappointed in him? If it weren't for the young master's exceptional talent and the second prince's keen eye for recognizing his worth, the hard-earned improvement in his circumstances these days might have all gone back to how it was before. Ji Shuyun, after committing such wicked deeds, aren't you afraid of divine retribution? Her voice was filled with anguish as she declared outright that she didn't care about my status as the eldest daughter. For the sake of her young master, she was willing to risk everything, wouldn't even care about saving face. This was hardly the person Shen Moxing cherished most. It was practically his own mother, firmly convinced that her son was one of a kind. She believed that if he was willing to break off an engagement, it meant the woman wasn't good enough for him. If he was the one being rejected, then the woman was simply short-sighted. I leisurely took a sip of tea, listening carefully to all this, and only then did I finally lift my gaze, since he's been living so miserably. You should have told me more about it. Do you regret it now? Upon hearing this, Hu snorted coldly. It's not too late to apologize now. The young master likes you and is kind-hearted. He'll surely forgive you. But I warn you, if you ever bully him again, I won't let you off. She waited for me with trepidation, but I simply let out a comfortable sigh and said, the more you tell me, the happier I'll be. If he remains miserable and keeps telling me, I'll stay happy forever. Hu. She froze for a second, then snapped back to reality, ready to throw a tantrum like a shrew. This is her usual tactic. Back when Shen Moxing had no paper, ink or food, she would go and make a scene with the Shen family matriarch. Later, whenever she took a fancy to something good belonging to Shen Moxing, this method never failed. After all, you're all wealthy people. What's the harm in giving me a little? Such families value their reputation above all else. If a scandal were to erupt and be witnessed by others, it would be truly humiliating and troublesome. So they simply turned a blind eye and let her have her way. Having gained such advantages, it naturally became effortless for her to stir up trouble. It's just a pity she didn't realize, in the past, the things she wanted were insignificant, so people naturally considered it bad luck and let her have them. But I'm someone who counts every penny and can't stand being short-changed. Compared to that, what does it matter if people say a few extra words about me? I raised my finger slightly and declared, give her the big stick and drive her out too. Now it's settled. I've let her and Shen Moxing be lying sick together. But it wasn't until the wedding day that I understood why both Shen Moxing and she were so confident. Even Shen Moxing could boldly claim that, even with the imperial decree issued, there was still room for maneuver between him and me. Because the second prince's faction had long planned to take the emperor hostage, forcing a palace coup. On the very day of my wedding to Jiyu Lingfeng, the prepared forces moved swiftly. Soon, they had surrounded the imperial palace. The military forces deployed were clearly not just for a mere coup. It seemed more like taking advantage of the chaos of a forced abdication to eliminate the opposing faction as well. Jiyu Lingcheng couldn't wait any longer, seizing the moment. The old emperor looked down at me and Jiyu Lingfeng with a triumphant air. Fourth brother, in the end, you've still lost. Hasn't Father Emperor been wavering all along, just to see which of us two is truly superior? Today, I will show him that in terms of courage and capability, I will always surpass you. I deserve to be on that throne. You, unfilial son, the old emperor, who had been watching the tigers fight from the safety of the mountain, never expected that one day his scheme would backfire, making him the prey in the tiger's mouth. Jiyu Lingfeng shielded me, holding a long sword in his hand. Do you not realize that if troops enter the imperial city, innocent civilians within will also be affected, even wrongfully killed? So what? Those who achieve great things must not be bogged down by trivialities. They're just worthless lives. Dead is dead. Who has ever ascended to this position without blood on their hands? Gu Lingcheng couldn't care less. Just as in his past life, he hadn't cared about the lives of an entire city, all for the sake of eliminating Gu Lingfeng. He's not wrong. Whoever sits in that position has blood on their hands, but it matters whose blood. Whoosh, a long arrow shot through the air. At a moment when no one expected it, the blade pierced through the hand with which Gu Lingcheng was holding the emperor hostage. Simultaneously, Gu Lingfeng seized the opportunity to step forward. Leaping up by stepping on a rebel's arm, and with a swift motion, his long sword flew out and embedded itself into Gu Lingcheng's shoulder. Thud, amidst his cries of pain, the instigator had already withdrawn the sword, his gaze sharp and fierce. The rebel leader has been captured, and none of the others shall be spared. Kill them all. On the city wall, my elder brother, who had disappeared after carrying me onto the bridal sedan, stood clad in armor and commanded, kill. In the midst of great strife, every day is a trial by fire. How could we possibly prepare for the grand wedding without any precautions? Everyone was competing to see who was bolder. Then don't blame the mantis for stalking the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. The outcome was clear. The private soldiers long stationed in the imperial city were no match for the iron cavalry galloping across the battlefield. A bloodbath was over in just half a day. A great advantage turned into a crushing defeat. The coup failed, and the emperor was terrified. Within half a month, he passed away in the Weiyang Palace. The fourth prince ascended the throne in this manner, and the first thing he did was to deal with the rebels. The second prince, Gu Lingcheng, was demoted to a commoner and given a cup of poisoned wine. The empress dowager, voluntarily requested to retire to the royal Buddhist temple for spiritual practice, no longer involving herself in the affairs of the former court or the harem. As for the accomplices who joined the rebellion, their fates were naturally even more tragic. Chu was no longer as arrogant as before. She wanted to beg me to save someone, but it was already too late. After all, as the biological father of the empress, any mistake he made would result in dismissal and exile. Not to mention Shen Moxing, he shouldn't have died so quickly, at the very least. A verdict should have been issued after the trial, yet the one he cherished most, Chu, still resorted to her old tricks, attempting to bribe the Dali court with nothing but a bag of silver. You should know this is precisely the time when the new emperor has just ascended the throne. Everyone is keeping their heads down. So who would dare to act against the wind? The Court of Judicial Review, fearing they might be caught in a situation where reason couldn't prevail, immediately threw him into the dungeon, where rats scurried about. Shen Moxing thus contracted the plague. As for the briber, Chu, he also ended up behind bars. She was always so indignant. You all don't understand the young master at all. My young master is a genius of the ages. So what if he made a small mistake? Without the young master to govern the country, I'd like to see how long it takes for you all to perish. The voice escaped through the prison's window above, only to be quickly drowned out by the lively sound of firecrackers outside. This political upheaval did not affect the common people, who could now live in peace and joy, celebrating the new year happily. Yet her young master lay curled up in the dungeon. Before death, he had a dream. In the dream, after his passing, his son, whom he had brainwashed and instructed, indeed fulfilled his wish. Disregarding the objections of his lawful wife to bury him alongside his long-departed Chu, yet he never imagined that Shuyun would be ridiculed so humiliatingly. Even their son came to despise her, viewing her as jealous and selfish. Only his brother-in-law, who had always disliked him, caused a scene at the joint funeral of him and Chu, resolutely bringing Shuyun back home. Shuyun lived well there, but their son, due to his poor upbringing, committed a grave mistake. When he came begging for help, the brother-in-law drove him away. In the end, he was dismissed from his post and exiled. As for Shuyun, she never thought of him again. On her deathbed, she only spoke 2 sentences. One was to her elder brother and his wife: if there is an afterlife, I would still choose to be your sister. The other sentence was for him: if there is a next life, I will not marry into the Shen family again. She had done it all. At the coronation ceremony, adorned in phoenix crown and embroidered robes, she was afraid of the dark, so her husband held her in his arms. When we die, we shall be buried together like this, holding each other. Don't be afraid, I'm here, don't be afraid.